Chosen one, lock your attention on this message right now. That quiet in your spirit, the one that feels different from peace, anchor yourself to it, because what I'm about to say is the reason you were brought here today. God said He is impressed, not pleased, not satisfied, impressed. And if you have never heard heaven use that word over your life, prepare yourself, because this is the moment it lands. The enemy has been working overtime this month for one reason and one reason only. He watched you pass every single test, and now he is in a panic. It all shifts from this moment forward. The confusion, the heaviness, the long silence from heaven that made you wonder if anyone was watching. It all shifts because of what you have done across the last 30 days. Think back to this month. Not the highlight reel, the actual month, the moments no one saw, the moments you almost did not survive spiritually, emotionally, mentally, and yet here you are. You did not find this recording by accident. The algorithm did not bring you here. God did. This is a divine appointment that was placed on the calendar of heaven before the foundations of the earth were laid. You are standing at a threshold, and the door behind you is closing permanently. Do not click away. Your future self is standing on the other side of this message, and if you leave now, you leave before the verdict is read over your life. In the next few minutes, I am going to hand you the full declaration that confirms what God has already decided about your case. I am going to walk you through all 7 tests you survived this month, so you can see exactly what you passed and exactly what each one unlocked. And at the end, I am going to give you the decree that seals this season shut and opens the next one permanently. Stay until the last second. I know what this month has felt like. The atmosphere has not just been difficult, it has been relentless, like wave after wave arriving before you could catch your breath from the last one. Maybe you woke up at 3:00 inches the morning this week with your heart pounding, staring at the ceiling, running through everything that happened this month, wondering if you handled it right. Or maybe you sat down this week in a quiet moment and felt a strange weight in your chest, something between grief and expectation, like you are mourning a version of yourself that is gone, but you have not yet met the version that is coming. Perhaps there was a moment this month where you went completely silent when everything in you wanted to react. A moment where you walked away from something that would have felt good in the moment, but wrong in the spirit. A moment where you chose the harder thing, not because you had the strength, but because you had nothing left, and surrender was the only move left on the board. You felt like you were failing. You felt like God was silent. You felt like you were losing ground every single day. And in that space, the enemy began whispering a very specific lie. Listen to your own thoughts right now, and you will recognize it. He has been telling you that this month broke you, that the reason everything feels unresolved, unfinished, unanswered, is because of how you responded. He has been replaying that moment when you broke down. That moment when you said something you should not have said. That moment when you pulled back from God instead of running toward Him. The accuser has been building a case, and the charge is this: you disqualified yourself. You went through the fire and came out worse, not better. The blessing has been delayed because of your failures this month. But I need you to hear what the scripture actually says about what you just walked through. James 1:12 says, "Blessed is the one who perseveres under trial, because, having stood the test, that person will receive the crown of life that the Lord has promised to those who love Him." Listen to the precision of that promise. Not the one who performed perfectly under trial, not the one who never wavered or never wept or never wanted to quit. The one who persevered, the one who stayed, the one who, after everything, was still standing. That is the test, and that is exactly what you did. The enemy wants you to believe that your stumbles disqualified you from the test. But the Most High was not grading your composure. He was watching your direction. And every single time this month, even when you fell forward. You kept moving toward the promise. You kept returning to the altar. You kept showing up broken rather than staying away proud. That is not failure. That is the definition of passing. The heaviness you feel right now is not the weight of a life going wrong. It is the weight of a season completing itself. It is the pressure of a chapter closing, the very last page being written before God turns to something entirely new in your story. You think this month was your lowest point. Heaven is recording it as your finest hour. You did not break under 7 tests. You were built by them. Because here's what most people don't understand about being tested. The test was never designed to break you. It was designed to reveal you. And the fact that you're still here, still standing, still watching this message, that alone is proof that something inside you refused to quit, even when quitting felt like the only reasonable option left. Some messages don't just inform, they activate. If something stirred deep in your spirit just now, you may be ready to receive the Chosen One's blueprint. This sacred guide reveals the 8 divine patterns behind your calling, your suffering, and your destiny. It also comes with the full audiobook so you can absorb it during prayer, rest, or quiet moments with God. And for those called to speak His truth, you'll also receive Activating Your Prophet Mantle, a powerful bonus ebook for those carrying a prophetic assignment. The link is in the first pinned comment, but only for a limited time. Now, let's go deeper into what actually happened to you this month, because it wasn't random. None of it was. There is a pattern that God uses when He is preparing someone for an assignment so significant that ordinary preparation would never be enough. He doesn't send one test to qualify you. He sends a sequence layered, compressing, relentless, because what He is building in you requires a foundation that only pressure can create. You weren't in a bad season. You were in a forge. And there is a profound difference between those two things that most people never stop long enough to recognize. A bad season is something that happens to you. A forge is something that is happening for you, a deliberate, intentional, divinely engineered process in which the raw material of who you were is being transformed into the refined substance of who you are called to be. The heat you felt wasn't punishment, it was process. The weight you carried wasn't abandonment, it was assignment. And the God who placed you inside that forge never once looked away. Think about what fire actually does. It doesn't destroy gold, it clarifies it. Every impurity that was hidden beneath the surface, every fear you'd learned to manage, every wound you'd learned to work around, every limitation you'd quietly accepted as permanent fire, pulls all of it to the surface so it can be removed. And that is exactly what this month did to you. It didn't take things from you. It exposed everything in you that could not go where God is taking you next. Consider the goldsmith who sits beside the fire, watching with patient, unwavering eyes. Ancient craftsmen knew that gold was ready not when the flame went out, but when the surface of the molten metal became so clear, so reflective, that the goldsmith could see his own face perfectly mirrored in it. That is the standard God is working toward in you. Not perfection as the world defines it, but clarity, a transparency of character so complete that when heaven looks into you, it sees its own reflection looking back. The fire this month was not excessive, it was exact. It was calibrated to the specific impurities that needed to come to the surface in this specific season. Every relational fracture that surfaced, every financial pressure that mounted, every emotional exhaustion that made you feel like you had nothing left to give, those were not random misfortunes colliding against your life. They were targeted extractions. God was pulling out of you precisely what could not accompany you into the next chapter. But here's where it goes deeper. Most people only understand testing in hindsight. They look back 5 years later and say, That was the moment everything changed. What God is doing right now is rare. He is letting you see it while you're still in it. He is pulling back the veil mid-process. And that kind of revelation is never given to people who are simply surviving. It is given to people who are being deployed. Think about what it means to have your eyes opened while you are still inside the story. The prophet Elisha prayed that his servant's eyes would be opened, and suddenly the young man could see what had been there all along the mountain, full of horses and chariots of fire, surrounding them on every side. The enemy hadn't changed. The circumstance hadn't changed. What changed was the servant's ability to perceive the truth of his situation. That is what God is offering you right now. He is not waiting for you to come out the other side before he shows you what he was doing. He is letting you see the chariots while you're still standing in the valley. That is not a small gift. That is an act of extraordinary intimacy between a father and a child he trusts with sacred understanding. And the reason you can receive that revelation right now, in the middle of everything you've been walking through, is because something in you is mature enough to hold it without it destroying you. The story of Job is one that most people misread. They focus on the suffering. They count the losses, the livestock, the children, the health, the dignity. They read the chapters where Job sits in the ash heap, scraping his sores with a piece of pottery, and they feel the grief of it deeply. But what the text is actually showing you is something that rarely gets preached. Job didn't just endure. Job maintained his posture. In the middle of his collapse, in the middle of his friends accusing him, in the middle of his own confusion about why God had gone silent, Job refused to curse the name of the one who had called him. And it was that refusal, not his perfection, not his theology, not his good deeds. It was that refusal to break covenant in the middle of the breaking that qualified him for restoration on a scale he couldn't have imagined before the test began. 7 tests in 1 month. That is the Job pattern. And God said you passed. Think about what that actually means. Job's friends sat beside him and offered him explanations. They gave him theological frameworks for why he was suffering. They told him, with great confidence and religious certainty, that his pain must be the consequence of some hidden sin, some failure of character, some debt owed to a righteous God. And every single one of them was wrong. God later told them directly, "You have not spoken of me what is right." But Job, the one who argued, who questioned, who cried out in confusion and raw grief, Job was the one whose speech God defended. Because Job spoke honestly. Job spoke from the depths of his actual experience, rather than from the safety of comfortable theology. And that kind of raw, unfiltered honesty before God, that willingness to bring the real thing, not the polished thing, is itself a form of faith that God honors above rehearsed praise offered from a comfortable distance. And this leads us to something most people miss entirely. Passing the test doesn't mean you felt strong through it. Passing doesn't mean you had perfect faith. Passing means you didn't permanently walk away. It means that even when you cried out in confusion, even when the silence of heaven felt unbearable, even when doubt crept in at 3 inches the morning, something deeper than your emotions kept you tethered. That something is called covenant, and you didn't even fully understand it while it was holding you. God was honoring a connection to you that went beyond your ability to feel it. There is a line in the Psalms that carries more weight than most people give it. He who keeps Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps. In your darkest nights, when the silence felt like absence, when you reached for the presence of God and felt nothing but the cold walls of your own uncertainty, He was not asleep. He was not distracted. He was not looking elsewhere while you struggled. He was watching with the same focused, committed attention that He has given to every single soul He has ever called. The covenant He made with you was not contingent on your emotional state. It was not activated by your perfect performance or deactivated by your weakest moments. It was established before you were formed, written into your story before you had a story to live. And on your most broken nights, when you could not hold on to God, He was holding on to you with a grip that no amount of fear, confusion, or grief could break. Now, what's coming next will likely surprise you, because most people assume that after the test comes rest, and rest does come. But before the rest, something else happens. Before God restores what was lost, He first repositions who you are. Because if He gave you back everything you lost without first changing how you see yourself, you would return to the same cycles that made you vulnerable in the first place. This is a truth that requires real stillness to absorb. Restoration without transformation is simply a reset to the same starting point. And God is not in the business of resetting you. He is in the business of rebuilding you into something the original version could never have been. Think about the Israelites who came out of Egypt. God didn't lead them directly into the promised land, not because He lacked the power to take them there immediately, but because they still carried Egypt in them. They had been slaves so long that they had internalized the psychology of captivity, the scarcity mindset, the need for visible leadership, the instinct to shrink when confronted with giants. And God knew that a people who thought like slaves could not inhabit a land built for the free. So He led them through the wilderness, not as punishment, as preparation. Every complaint in the desert, every moment of testing at the water's edge, every night when the cloud moved and they had to move with it, not knowing where they were going, all of it was God not withholding the promise, but developing the people who could possess it. This is the hidden work that happens between the last test and the first breakthrough. It's the quiet moment, the moment where nothing seems to be moving, where the crisis has passed but the promise hasn't arrived yet, where the phone is still quiet and the doors are still closed, and you start to wonder if passing the test even mattered. This is the in-between, and it is the most dangerous place on the journey. Not because the enemy is strongest here, but because you are most likely to misread it. You look at the stillness and call it abandonment, but God calls it preparation. He is not restoring your old life, He is constructing your new one. And construction zones don't look like finished buildings. A building mid-construction looks like chaos. It looks like exposed beams and open foundations and machinery and disruption, and nothing that resembles the finished structure that the architect always had in mind. But the architect was never confused. The architect's vision was never compromised by the appearance of the construction. He held the blueprint clearly from the very beginning, and every single piece of the apparent chaos was part of a deliberate design. You are not abandoned in the quiet. You are mid-construction. The architect hasn't left the site. He is on the ground, directing every piece of what is being built in you, and the fact that you cannot yet see the finished form does not mean the finished form does not exist. Stay with me, because what I'm about to share next is the part that breaks the cycle for so many people who made it through the fire but never fully entered their promise. There is a version of you that got formed inside the suffering, a version that learned how to survive under pressure, a version that built walls, mastered endurance, and became fluent in scarcity. And that version of you was necessary. That version kept you alive. But here is the confrontation you need to hear. That version of you cannot lead you into abundance, because the instincts of survival and the instincts of purpose are not the same. Survival tells you to protect. Purpose tells you to pour out. Survival tells you to hedge. Purpose tells you to risk. Survival tells you to wait until it's safe. But your calling was never designed to feel safe before it asked you to move. There is a profound distinction that needs to land in your spirit right now. The armor you built during the hard years was real, and it served a real function. When the arrows were flying and the ground was unstable, and trust had been betrayed and resources had run thin, that armor was not weakness dressed as strength. It was the legitimate response of a person learning how to endure what was being asked of them. But armor designed for battle cannot be worn at the banquet table. The very thickness that protected you in the valley will insulate you from the intimacy that heaven is now offering you on the mountaintop. God is not asking you to erase who the suffering made you. He is asking you to let Him add to you, to layer purpose onto survival, to wrap calling around endurance, to transform the language of scarcity you mastered in the desert into the language of provision that your promised land will require you to speak fluently. Elisha understood this. When Elijah's mantle fell, Elisha didn't pick it up carefully. He didn't study it first. He didn't consult anyone. He ran toward it. And that run, that immediate, almost irrational movement toward the thing God was handing him, was itself an act of faith. Not faith as a feeling. Faith as a decision made in the body before the mind fully agreed. That's the kind of activation God is calling you into right now. Not a plan you've perfected, a step you take before you feel ready. And notice something extraordinary about what Elisha did immediately after he picked up that mantle. He struck the water with it, and the waters parted. He didn't spend months learning how to use it. He didn't attend a course on prophetic mantles. He stepped into what God handed him and used it immediately, boldly, without apology. The mantle that fell on Elisha was the same mantle that had rested on Elijah. But the waters didn't part for the memory of Elijah. They parted in response to a living man who took up what God had assigned and acted on it in real time. That is the invitation before you, not to honor the memory of who you used to be, not to mourn the version of yourself you left behind in the fire, but to pick up what God is handing you right now, in this moment, and move with it before your feelings give you permission. And once that clicks, everything shifts. Because you start to understand that the delay you've been experiencing was never God withholding your destiny. It was God developing the person who could carry it without being destroyed by it. Assignment without character is a setup for collapse. And God loves you too much to hand you something you weren't yet built to hold. Consider what it means to be handed a torch before you know how to carry fire. Before you understand the weight of it, the responsibility of it, the way it demands that you hold it high enough to light the path of others without burning yourself in the process. God has watched you in this season with absolute precision, noting every moment your character was tested and held, every time your integrity was squeezed and didn't compromise, every instance where you were offered a shortcut and chose the longer, truer road instead. He has been watching, and He has been building. And the thing He is building is not simply a life that works. It is a life that carries the weight of His glory without breaking under it. But let me challenge you with something that will require real honesty. Coming up, and this is the part most people quietly skip past because it requires them to look at something uncomfortable. Coming up is the one thing you've been protecting that has actually been protecting your delay. Here it is. The thing that has been blocking you is not the enemy. It is not your past. It is not the people who betrayed you or misunderstood you or walked away. The thing that has been blocking you is your devotion to a version of your story that you've already outgrown. You have been so loyal to who you had to become to survive that you've been unconsciously resisting who God is calling you to be next. You defined yourself by your wounds so thoroughly that letting go of the wound began to feel like losing yourself. But that is the agreement that has to break today. Your wound was never your identity. It was your waiting room. And God is saying the waiting is over. Think about how long you have been introducing yourself by your pain. Not in words necessarily, but in posture, in the way you hesitate before stepping forward, in the way you disqualify yourself quietly before anyone else gets the chance, in the way you keep one hand on the door of retreat, even when God has placed you in a room He specifically opened for you. The wound became the lens through which you interpreted every new opportunity, every new relationship, every new invitation from heaven. And what that lens did, over time, was filter out the very light that was trying to reach you. It is time to take the lens off. Not because the wound wasn't real, it was real, and it mattered, and God saw every moment of it, but because you are not defined by what happened to you. You are defined by what God destined you for. And those are not the same thing. There is something even beneath that, and this is where everything opens up. The final layer is this: you have been waiting for permission, not permission from a person, not permission from a circumstance, but permission from inside yourself. A sense that you've healed enough, prepared enough, proven enough to finally step into what you've been called to do. But God doesn't wait for you to feel worthy before He activates the worthy. He calls the unqualified and qualifies them mid-assignment. He called Moses with a stutter. He called Gideon with fear. He called Mary before she had any framework for what was being asked of her. He called them, and the calling itself became the qualification. You do not need to arrive before you start moving. The movement is how you arrive. Moses spent 40 years in the wilderness thinking his season of significance was behind him. He was an 80-year-old shepherd when the burning bush appeared, 80 years old. And the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob appeared to him, not in a temple, not at an altar, not in a moment of spiritual performance, but in the middle of his ordinary work, on an ordinary day, with an extraordinary interruption. God didn't say to Moses, "When you've figured out your stutter, come and lead my people." He said, "I know about your stutter, and I am sending you anyway, and I will be your mouth." The limitation Moses was most afraid of became the place where God's power was most visibly displayed. Because when Moses stood before Pharaoh and words came out that shook the most powerful empire in the ancient world, no one could attribute that to Moses' eloquence. The limitation made the miracle obvious. Your limitation is not disqualifying you. It is positioning you for a display of God's power so evident that no one, including you, will be able to credit it to your own ability. So tonight, before you sleep, place your hand over your heart and speak this over yourself. I release the labels I was given by people who could not see my destiny. I release the fear that disguised itself as wisdom and kept me still when I was called to move. I release my loyalty to a version of myself that was built for survival but was never meant to be my ceiling. I declare that every test I passed this month was not a coincidence, it was confirmation. I am not behind. I am not forgotten. I am not too broken, too late, or too flawed for what God has assigned to my life. I step forward not because I feel ready, but because I have been chosen, and chosen ones do not wait for permission to walk in purpose. My season has shifted. My assignment is active. And what God began in the fire, He will complete in the fullness of His glory. I receive it now, I walk in it now, and I will not turn back. Let these words land somewhere deeper than your intellect. Let them find the place in you that has been waiting, the place that heard every message about purpose and felt the stirring but stayed still, the place that knew the calling was real but let uncertainty keep it quiet. Let this declaration be the moment that place finally opens. Because declarations spoken in faith are not simply words, they are agreements. They are the moment your will aligns with God's will and creates an opening for what was always meant to come through. You are not speaking these words into an empty room. You are speaking them into the hearing of a God who already knows your name, already ordained your path, and has been patiently, faithfully, lovingly waiting for you to say yes to the fullness of what He prepared for you before the foundation of the world. If this message confirmed what your spirit already knew, share it with someone who is still in the middle of their test and needs to know they're not alone. Leave a comment and tell me which part of this message hit you deepest, because your words might be the exact testimony someone else needs to see today. And if you are ready to go even deeper into your divine assignment, Everything you need is waiting for you in the first pinned comment below.